They arrived in silence. No engines. No lights. No signal. Just shadows slipping through the edge of the void. 3 alien observers hovered in orbit. Above a burning world. It wasn't Earth. Not yet. It was Cinderfor, a small mining colony one. Of the first outer planets caught in the war between humanity and the Threx, Dominion. The observers had orders: watch, do not speak, do not act, do not interfere. This was humanity's first interstellar war, and the Galactic Council wanted answers. Observer Valkyrie was the lead, tall, gray-skinned, cold-eyed, a scientist from the Volari archives. He called humans a volatile variable in a stable equation. Observer Drusk was smaller, insectoid, always tapping his fingers together, curious, nervous, too young for war zones, yet eager to understand them. Observer Sorrel III said little. She had 4 arms, blue eyes, and an expression like a rainstorm trapped in a bottle. She studied emotions. She was here to feel what they could not describe. Their ship. The Sentinel Veil floated high in orbit, cloaked by Council tech, watching the chaos below. Is this it? Drosk asked as they hovered over the burning colony. Is this how humans begin? No diplomacy, no formal declaration, Vakari said calmly. Just fire. Below them, flames consumed Cinderfor's surface. Smoke trails marked the impact of kinetic orbital strikes. Defense towers had been melted into slag. Emergency beacons blinked in vain. Threx forces were stationed there. Vakari continued. 3 divisions. Crushed in 7 minutes. But there were civilians, Drosk whispered. Sorrel said nothing. Her eyes were locked on the screen. They had arrived 30 minutes earlier, just in time to see. Earth's first strike fleet entered the system. The human ships didn't speak, didn't signal, they just peered. 12 warships. Long, black, cold. Painted with a strange symbol no alien species could understand. Red handprint smeared across a white skull at first. Vakari thought it was a malfunction. No warning. He asked, then the first missile launched, it wasn't clean. It wasn't precise. It was rage forged into metal. Observe the technique, Vakari said, voice cold. Humans aren't using plasma. They're using old-fashioned kinetic rods. Tons of metal dropped from orbit. No energy trail. No warning. Cinderfor cracked like glass. Wait, Drosk leaned forward. That base. It wasn't military. That was a civilian hub. Sorrel finally spoke. Silence filled the bridge. Vakari made a note. Humanity does not discriminate in its retribution. 1 hour earlier, the Threx Dominion had broadcast a victory message. They had captured 2 human scouts. Sent back pieces of them, piece by piece, through open channels, laughing, daring Earth to respond. Humanity answered with fire. Why didn't they ask for help? Drosk whispered. The Council would have intervened. Perhaps they didn't. Want help? Vakari replied. Perhaps they wanted revenge. Another missile dropped. Then another TO2 Threx ships launched from the surface, trying to escape. The human ships ignored them at first, till one fired a plasma bolt at Earth's flagship. Big mistake. In response, a human corvette charged forward, colliding directly into the fleeing Threx cruiser. A suicide run. The explosion rippled through the atmosphere like a sun swallowing a scream. Did they mean to die? Drosk asked, horrified. Sorrel slowly turned to him. I don't think they care. The Sentinel Veil floated in silence. Their cameras zoomed in on the battlefield. They saw humans in exosuits stomping through ruins, dragging Threx survivors. From bunkers, scanning their faces, making split-second decisions: execute or release. The decisions didn't always make sense. One soldier spared a screaming Threx medic. Another shot a child-sized figure without blinking. The observers didn't understand the logic. Neither did the humans. Perhaps this isn't how wars are fought, Drosk muttered. Not in council space. This is personal. Vakari said. Yes, Sorrel agreed softly. This is not conquest. It's grief in armor. When they picked up a human transmission short, cracked by interference. This is Captain Marin of the 5th Earth Response Fleet. To the Threx, you glass New Jakarta. But you killed our children in their sleep. You left us no choice. We don't want your surrender. We want your silence. The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Drosk trembled. But this colony wasn't involved in Jakarta. They're Threx, Vakari said. And that is enough. Sorel closed her eyes. This isn't war. Its memory turned into fire. As the fires below died out, observers scanned the wreckage. Nearly 80% of Sindrafor's surface had been scorched. No survivors, but then a signal. Weak, garbled, faint. Wait, Drosk said. Something's transmitting from underground. Sharpen the scan. A small Threx shelter. It's not military. A nursery. 33 Threx juveniles. Crying, dying, trapped under rubble. Not armed, not trained. Jesk's voice cracked. They didn't know. Neither did the humans, Sorel said quietly. The signal ended mid-cry. The observers sat in stunned silence. Even Vakari had no words. Finally, Drosk said, "Are we going to report this?" Vakari stared at the ashes of the colony. But it won't stop what comes next. Sorel leaned forward. The screen focused. There, painted along the side of Earth's command vessel, a name, written in red, Vengeance Protocol. Then something even stranger happened. The human fleet didn't leave. They stayed in orbit, silent, waiting for what? Drosk whispered. Cyril answered. For someone to try and stop them. They weren't conquerors. They weren't saviors. They weren't colonizers. They were a wounded species with nothing left to lose and too much rage left to spend. As the sentinel veil turned away, Sorel looked at the fire one last time, and for the first time in her career as an observer, she felt afraid. Not for herself, but for the galaxy, because this was only the first. Strike in humanity was just getting started. The alien fleet watched from orbit. They came to witness what they thought would be a short, messy war. They were wrong. By the time the human ship Red Victor entered the Drenner system, the observers were already transmitting their reports to the Council, reports full of words like brutal, irrational, and uncivilized. Observer Vakari labeled humanity's tactics as reckless destruction. Observer Drosk couldn't stop shaking. Observer Sira L. She had gone silent, but none of them expected what was about to happen next. Hook first 5 to 7 minutes. One human frigate, alone, outnumbered 6 to 1. Instead of retreating, it charged the enemy fleet directly into the gravity well of a dying Stardot and pulled everyone with it. The Red Victor wasn't supposed to be there. It was old, scarred. Half its systems were outdated. The Threx fleet in the Drenner system numbered at least 20 ships larger, faster, and well-armed. When the human frigate arrived, it didn't fire. It didn't send warnings. It didn't even try to evade instead. It lit up its engines and sped toward the center of the star system. Right toward the dying red giant at Drenner's heart. What is it doing? Drosk asked, eyes wide. It's malfunctioning, Vakari said. They wouldn't risk that trajectory on purpose. No, Sorel said. They know exactly what they're doing. The Threx ships gave chase. They thought it was a trap. Maybe a cloaked fleet. Maybe a new weapon. They followed. Too close. Too fast. Too late, the Red Victor reached critical orbit around the star and fired every engine in reverse, dragging its pursuers straight into the gravity well. Threx engines screamed to escape. Shields flickered, but it was no use. The frigate had calculated the timing down to the second. 12 enemy ships were caught in the stellar tide. 2 escaped. 10 were crushed into burning arcs, sucked toward the core and the Red Victor. It stayed behind. Its final transmission: "You killed my family on Jakarta. I brought you to meet them." The observers were silent. Even Vakari's cold logic had no explanation. That wasn't military logic, Drosk whispered. No, Cyril replied. It was something else. Something older. She paused. It was grief with a target. Later scans showed what the human ship had done. It used the star's decay to create a gravity trap. It adjusted its orbit to pull enemy ships in behind it. It self-destructed at just the right moment, at a mass to accelerate the collapse. Tactic no other species had ever dared attempt. It was impossible. It was brilliant. And it was insane. The Council's transmission arrived a few hours later. Humanity is to be observed only. Do not engage. Do not assist. They are not to be classified as a developing race. They are to be classified as a volatile anomaly. Vakari closed the message. They will not listen. Who won't? Asked Drosk. The Council.
Yes!
The galaxy. All of them. He tapped the screen. They all still think Earth fights like everyone else. But Drosk wasn't listening. He was replaying the last frame of the Red Victor's final transmission. The human captain wasn't crying. He was smiling. The observer's ship Sentinel Vale moved into orbit above the next battlefield. The planet Chiron 7 was a known Threx stronghold. Thousands of troops, dozens of orbital platforms. The humans didn't wait. They fired before they even arrived. Human tactic detected. Neutron cascade. Delivery pods. Illegal under the Galactic Code. Creates a wave of destabilized neutrons, disrupting electronics and liquefying organic tissue. The Threx tried to flee, but by the time the observers arrived, the sky above Chiron 7 was full of falling ships, like dead birds, plummeting through ash. We have rules, Drosk said. We have codes. We agreed not to use these weapons. Vakari's voice was cold. They weren't invited to that agreement. The humans didn't land troops. They just circled the dead world once, then left. Sorel watched as the Threx broadcasts went silent. There were medics down there, she said. Hospitals. Children. So were there on New Jakarta, Vakari replied. The Sentinel Vale picked up a garbled signal. It was a human war song, something broadcast by soldiers before going into battle. The words were low and rhythmic. Translated, it simply said, "We are not fighting to win. We are fighting to never lose again." Back at the Galactic Council, the debates were beginning. Some called for Earth's punishment. Some called for quarantine. Others whispered something worse. What if they're just getting started? Later that night, Sirel wandered the quiet halls of the Sentinel Vale. She stared out at the stars and said quietly to herself, "They're not primitive. They're something else." Behind her, Drosk was already researching something on his tablet, a classified file. A hidden event, he clicked, Operation Red Womb, classified, Earth War Archive. And the screen lit up with horrors even the Threx had forgotten, but not Earth. Earth had remembered everything. The Council had made its decision. No action, no interference, no aid. Humanity's war would be observed and nothing more. But Earth wasn't waiting for permission, and its screams were already echoing across the stars. Hook, first 5 to 7 minutes. A message from Earth blared across open galactic frequencies, loud, raw, and full of rage. You glassed our cities. You laughed when we begged. You gave us silence. So now, we speak your language. Within hours, 5 Threx colonies fell, not captured, erased. Inside the Sentinel Vale, the alien observers watched. In growing horror, Vakari tried to stay detached. Their methods are primitive, crude, predictable. But even he hesitated when the next human weapon activated. Project Crowstorm, Kirin Delta. A forest moon with 3 million Threx colonists. It should have been safe, remote, hidden. But humans had intercepted the old trade routes. Instead of sending ships, they released nanite swarms disguised as meteor dust. For days, the Threx didn't notice anything, till their crops withered, their machines stopped. Their water turned black. Then came the real horror. The nanites turned to the living. Is this war? Sk asked, watching Threx civilians choke in their homes. Vakari didn't respond. Cyril, her voice thin, said, "This isn't war. It's a funeral dressed like strategy." The Galactic Council received thousands of complaints. Threx diplomats screamed about war crimes, but Earth never responded to them. Instead, Earth responded with another broadcast, this time controlled. To the Council, you were silent when our people begged for help. You negotiated with the ones who slaughtered our colonies? You fed us to monsters? So don't act shocked when we become one. In secret, Council Command began to panic. They pulled the observers' files. They reviewed every human tactic used. So far, they even considered designating Earth as a Tier Black threat species. Only 2 other civilizations had ever earned that mark. Both were extinct. Are they trying to go extinct? Drosk asked, shivering as he reviewed casualty reports. No, Sorel whispered. Oh. They're making sure no one else forgets them ever again. Still, Earth made one strange move. They refused to occupy Threx territory. They bombed, burned, and destroyed. But they never stayed. No flags, no declarations, just whispers. Just Ash the Sentinel Veil intercepted a coded human message sent to all frontline units: don't take trophies, don't take land. Leave them ghosts. That's the only language they'll understand. On a desert moon called Seraphes, Earth deployed something new. The Hallow Protocol. A silence weapon. It didn't destroy buildings. It didn't kill soldiers. It just erased sound. Sound cannons, Drosk asked, confused. Stock warfare. Here not Sonic, Vakari replied grimly. They're removing noise, and when Threx survivors tried to scream, they couldn't. The silence spread like a virus. No weapons worked, no engines, no alarms. Even the planet's birds fell from the sky, and then the bombs dropped. This is psychological warfare, Vakari admitted for the first time. But beyond anything we've studied, we're not just killing the Threx. Drosk said. They're rewriting what fear means. Sorel opened her private recording file. She hadn't updated it in days. Now she did. Slowly and carefully. Entry 57. Humanity's rage is louder than the Council's laws, and while the galaxy debates, Earth just keeps screaming. Then came the final push. A planet called Elcarus. Prime. The Threx home of science and medicine. Safe zone. It's untouched. Peaceful.Earth sent one ship. It didn't broadcast a message. It sent a memory. A video file inside. Footage of New Jakarta, Earth's colony before it was glassed. Children screaming. Families burning. Buildings crumbling. And over that, a line of Earth text appeared. You gave us this. Now we return it. Times 10. The human ship left before the attack. The weapon was remote. It used quantum destabilizers devices. Earth claimed it didn't. Have Elcarus Prime shattered at its tectonic core? 9 billion gone? The Council called it an atrocity. But it was too late to stop Earth because Earth didn't want forgiveness. They wanted memory. They wanted pain. They wanted the universe to remember them every time they looked up. Later, as the Sentinel Veil drifted alone near a debris field, Trusk sat in the dark. We were supposed to be observers, he muttered. We were supposed to just watch. Sorel sat beside him. They ordered silence, she said softly. But Earth kept screaming. And far across the stars, Earth's final message arrived. Short, cold, direct. This was our first war. We need to know the rules, so we made new ones. You don't get to tell us how to bleed. No one understood why they kept fighting. The Threx Empire was shattered, their fleet scattered, their homeworld burned. There was nothing left to conquer. And yet, the humans kept going, burning, bombing, erasing. The Council believed Earth wanted to win the war, but they were wrong. Earth didn't want victory. Earth wanted pain. Hook first 5 to 7 minutes. The alien observers picked up a human military log left behind on a destroyed world. One line was underlined. We are not here to win. We are here to make sure no one ever does this to us again. That was the moment the observers realized. This war wasn't about strategy. It was about never being victims again. The Sentinel Veil hovered over the wreckage of Threx Platform 12. An abandoned orbital station turned graveyard. Bodies floated in silence. Some were burned, some frozen, none were human. Observer Vakari documented the damage. They could have bypassed this station. It had no weapons. Observer Drosk's face was pale, but it had sensors. It saw something. Observer Surreal watched the rotating body of a small Threx child drift past the view screen. Maybe that was reason enough, she whispered. Back on the bridge, Drosk reviewed Earth's tactics, found something terrifying. Project Memory Blade, a psychological weapon. Human AI systems were embedding false messages into abandoned cities designed to trigger despair, panic, and hallucinations in Threx survivors. Some messages read, "Your leaders ran, your gods are gone. You are the last stand, you are nothing." Others simply said, "We remember Jakarta." They're not just destroying, Drosk said. They're breaking the soul of the Threx. They want them to feel what Earth felt, Sorel said. Powerless, forgotten, alone. Vakari stood over a hologram of Threx space. Red marks showed destruction. More than 45 worlds had been hit, 17 with no strategic value. We assumed this was a war, he said flatly. But now, I believe it's something else. Sorel turned toward him. What then? Vakari looked up. A funeral. The observers found a lost log from Earth Admiral Kalen, a woman who led the assault on Threx Command. Her words, "They called us soft. They saw our mercy as weakness. So we gave them something older than mercy. We gave them memory, and vengeance wrapped in steel." Later, in secret, Drosk opened the Operation Red Womb file again. He finally found the full truth. New Jakarta was not Earth's first loss. Years before, a Threx experimental division had raided a human fertility colony. One designed to rebuild Earth's population after climate collapse. The Threx had destroyed the womb labs. The infants, the mothers. All of it. The event had been erased from Council records by Threx diplomats, and the Council let it happen. Drosk showed the file to Vakari. Did we know? We suspected, Vakari said coldly. But we were told not to dig. Drosk's voice cracked. We told the galaxy Earth was primitive. They are, Vakari said. But not because of their tools. Because of what we made them become. Meanwhile, Earth wasn't stopping. A human war group named Ghost Path Division launched an attack on Threx archive planet Nuvala, planet of historians, librarians, monks. No weapons, no defense. Still, Earth firebombed the surface. In place of ruins, they left one giant engraving carved into the crust. You made us choose this path. Now, walk it with us. Sorel broke protocol. She accessed Earth's civilian transmissions, the ones the Council never showed. She found videos of Jakarta survivors. Blind children, burned mothers, fathers digging through Ashdod. She saw something else. None of them wanted war. But all of them supported it now. One woman said, "We begged for help." The Council sat in its halls. So now, we answer with fire. Let them listen this time. Sorel recorded a voice file. Entry 64. The Council thought Earth wanted to win. They were wrong. Earth wanted to hurt. Earth wanted to grieve with a blade in its hand. In Council chambers, some members began shifting. They spoke in whispers. Maybe Earth had reason. Maybe Threx pushed too far. Maybe the humans are not monsters. It's just the result of our silence. But Earth wasn't waiting for pity. They launched Leviathan Protocol. A ship. Out. No immobile continent. Built on Jupiter's dark side, shaped like a dead whale. Powered by dark fusion. It didn't have guns. It had gravity engines it entered. Threx controlled space without a word. The Threx fired everything. Nothing touched it. The ship didn't fire back. Instead, it activated its core and turned a Threx moon inside out. Drosk collapsed in his chair. I don't understand anymore. What is the goal? Sorel looked at him to make sure the next generation of Threx. Children grow up hearing their parents whisper, "Never touch Earth. Never again." Vakari finally stood, walked to the main console, and spoke for the record. I was wrong. This is not a primitive species. It is a wounded one. And its pain has become a weapon sharper than anything in our archives. Back on Earth, a child placed a red flower at a black glass monument. The name New Jakarta was written on it. The camera panned out. Behind the child stood a city rebuilt in steel and silence. Factories hummed, ships launched. The war was not over, but the message was clear. They never wanted to win. They just never wanted to bleed alone again. They thought it was a myth. The rumors spoke of a massive human ship, too big to launch, too slow to fight, and too impossible to exist. The Council laughed when it was first mentioned in intercepted Earth transmissions. Even the Threx dismissed it as propaganda. But they all stopped laughing the day Leviathan moved. Hook first 5 to 7 minutes. From deep space came an automated signal, just a voice slow, emotionless, cold. This is Earth Command. You ended one of our cities. You ended our children. Now meet the ending we built for you. As the camera drones recorded it from thousands of kilometers away, something vast came into view. A ship the size of a small moon, long, silent, covered in black armor. Engines glowing with blue fusion light. Across its hull, in giant red lettering, one name was painted: Leviathan Protocol. Then Monroe Vale had been monitoring deep space movement in Sector E91. All scans went dark. Sensor buoys began failing one by one. Vakari frowned. Something is draining power across the grid. Drosk turned to Surail. That's not a weapon, is it? Surail only said one word: Leviathan. The ship didn't transmit orders. It didn't lead a fleet. It came alone, and the entire Threx command world of Varzuin prepared for defense. They activated 300 orbital cannons, sent 90 warships, launched every fighter available, and Earth's Leviathan never fired once. It simply opened its core. The observers watched in shock. From Leviathan's belly unfolded something they had never seen: a gravity distortion engine, not meant to crush ships, not meant to destroy planets, meant to move stars. It's focusing on their sun, Drosk whispered. Vakari scanned the data. They've built a gravity web strong enough to compress a star's mass into a core collapse event. Surail's eyes widened. They're going to take the sun. Threx High Command panicked. They sent a surrender signal. Earth didn't respond. Instead, Leviathan broadcast one sentence: evacuate. You have 24 hours. Then this sun belongs to Earth. The Council called for emergency sessions. Half demanded Earth be stopped. Half were too stunned to speak. We have rules, someone shouted. Another replied, they lost their cities while we debated. On Varzu and Threx, civilians screamed as escape pods launched. Military vessels abandoned their positions. In 23 hours, Leviathan activated its web. The sun trembled. Its outer layers tore apart. The core began collapsing into a black sphere. Then it vanished. The Threx system died in one moment. The night that followed swallowed 8 planets. It's all gone. No survivors remained in orbit, and Earth did not celebrate. No music. No joy. Just silence. The Sentinel. Vale floated at the edge of the event horizon. The observers recorded everything. Then Surail spoke. They didn't destroy the Threx because of rage. They didn't destroy them to rule. They destroyed them because no one stopped what was done to Earth. Drosk reviewed the internal Earth files again. Leviathan wasn't built during the war, he said quietly. Vakari raised an eyebrow. What? It was started before the Threx even invaded Earth space. It was a contingency project. After New Jakarta, they started building Leviathan the moment their people were attacked. Surail finished the thought. They always knew. No one would come to help. Back on Earth, satellite footage showed Leviathan returning to Jupiter. It docked in silence. No reporters, no announcements. No speeches. The ship powered down. Waiting, the Council voted 7-5 against retaliation. Earth's official response to the inquiry: we consider the matter closed. We defended our dead. We have no more wars to fight. But we remember. Surail sat in the dark. Recording again. Entry 72. Leviathan was not a weapon. It was a statement. Memorial forged in steel, powered by the grief of a planet that begged for help. Got silence instead. Later, a private council diplomat asked Earth for peace talks. Earth refused. There's no war left. You weren't there when it started. You don't get to be there when it ends. Vakari stood before a final galaxy map. Threx space. Empty. Earth. Silent, and in the center of it all, Leviathan rested like a tombstone. Not active, not gone, just watching. The galaxy swore it would never forget what Earth did. The death of the Threx star system, the crushing of a sun, was something no species had ever dared attempt. Entire solar charts had to be rewritten. Navigation routes vanished. Wormholes collapsed. A star was gone, and with it, a billion lives. But Earth didn't speak, and the Council, for the first time in its history, went silent. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. A scream echoed through the quiet. Of deep space, not a Soundan encrypted data signal, a recording from a Threx escape pod drifting without power. One phrase repeated over and over: "The light is gone. There's nothing left. Tell them. They made Earth this way." The pod was recovered 2 weeks later. Inside, 14 bodies, all dead from starvation, dehydration, and fear. The Sentinel Veil hovered just outside the now-dead Varzoon system. The black hole Leviathan left behind still pulled dust, rock, and wreckage into its heart. The observers said nothing until Drosk finally broke the silence. "We thought the humans were fighting for peace," Bakari answered without emotion. "They weren't fighting for peace. They were fighting for permission to never be heard again." On the surviving edge of Threx space, panic spread like wildfire. Civilian colonies collapsed. Military forces refused to fight. Entire Threx fleets mutinied and surrendered to neutral zones. They weren't running from Earth, ships. They were running from the memory of Leviathan. Sorel received a transmission from a rogue Threx scientist. She looked half dead, her eyes wide. Her voice cracked. "We studied Earth. We mocked them. We thought their grief would pass. But grief doesn't pass. It learns. Sharpens. It builds machines no sane species should ever design." She ended the message with a whisper. "They built a star killer, just to make us feel what they did." The Council called an emergency security summit. Most members were too afraid to speak publicly. But one delegate, from the Zertan Accord, finally said, "We feared Earth because of its weapons. But that wasn't the threat. The threat is that Earth will never forget and never forgive." Meanwhile, Earth broadcast a single message across deep space comes, not on military frequencies, it's not encrypted, just spoken. Let history show. We begged for help. We begged for mercy. We begged for justice. You gave us silence. So now we return it. You'll never hear from us again, unless you force us to speak. In a remote nebula near Sector V9, a scout ship discovered a drifting memorial, a monument the size of a city, made of shattered Threx hulls, suspended in a plasma bubble, glowing with red light. It bore no weapons, just names. Thousands of names all. Human, each one etched in fire. The last name on the list? New Jakarta. Bakari reviewed it personally. "This wasn't meant for the Threx," he said. "This was meant for us." Drosk paced. "What now?" "They've vanished. Earth's fleets returned home. Leviathan is docked and silent. They're not even patrolling. Anymore?" Sorel closed her eyes. "That's the real fear, isn't it?" They didn't win. They finished. The Council Intelligence Bureau published a classified memo. Humanity has entered post-retaliatory dormancy, meaning they were done, for now. But if anyone ever tried to harm Earth again, stars would scream again. Sorel, now visibly shaken, made her final report. Entry 81. The humans didn't kill a billion because they enjoyed it. They did it because they were left with no other answer. The galaxy watched Earth burn. And now Earth has burned part of it in return. May no species ever again ignore a scream for help? And somewhere on the edge of the galaxy, Leviathan floated beneath Jupiter's shadow, sleeping. But its sensors were always listening, waiting. After the stars went dark, Earth said nothing. Not a word. Not a signal. Not even a whisper. The war was over. The Threx were gone. And humanity just disappeared from the galactic stage. Hook first 5 to 7 minutes. For 20 years, no human ship. Entered council space. No messages were sent. No colonies expanded. No movement. Galactic historians called it the Quiet Era. But deep within council intelligence centers, analysts had another name, the Wait. Because Earth wasn't rebuilding, Earth wasn't recovering, Earth was watching. The Sentinel Veil, once an observer ship, had now been reassigned to long-term Earth monitoring. It had remained cloaked near Pluto's orbit for 2 decades. Crew had changed. Its mission had not. If Earth ever rises again, the mission file read, the galaxy must be warned. But Earth didn't rise. It built, quietly, underground. In orbit, shadows. No warships were launched, but satellites grew in number. New types of drones began moving along planetary rings. Unmarked stations blinked with red lights in the Oort cloud. Vicari's replacement. Observer Raylan noted, they've created a defense grid that could repel 10 council fleets. And they're not showing it off. That means one thing.
Air.
Not afraid? They're prepared. The galaxy tried to move on. New alliances were formed. New conflicts rose. Species who once mocked Earth now spoke its name like a warning. And the children of surviving, Threx refugees grew up with a rule etched into law: never provoke Earth. Never again. But not everyone listened. In year 18 of the Quiet Era, a rogue warband from the Tyr Dominion Arising military faction decided Earth's silence meant weakness. They called themselves the Flameborn, and they broadcast their challenge. Across council space, the galaxy lives in fear of a myth. We will test the fire and show there's nothing to be afraid of. They launched 7 stealth vessels into Sol. System. The council begged them to stand down. They didn't listen, and within 4 hours of entering Earth's outer system, the Flameborn ships vanished. The council sent probes. They found only debris charred. Metal. Twisted hull fragments. No escape pods. No survivors. One piece of wreckage had a human symbol scorched into its side. It's a single white skull inside a red ring. Underneath, 2 words in English, warning given. The Sentinel Veil recorded everything. The new observer Talon reviewed the incident. She whispered, they didn't answer with fire. They answered with silence sharper than a scream. Later that year, an Earth AI transmission quietly reached the council. Note, just a single statement. We told the galaxy, we are not your enemy. We will never again be your victim. Your silence was our pain. Ours will be your warning. That was the last time Earth spoke. And then, nothing again. No retaliation, no invasion, just silence. Some in the council began to believe. Earth had evolved beyond war. Others believed Earth was waiting for something far worse. Observer Talon secretly recorded a message to her homeworld. They haven't changed. They've just chosen not to move. They are the sleeping blade. It's the shadow under the star. If we force their hand, again, we won't get a second Leviathan. We'll get something worse. Back on Earth, the skies were calm. No war banners. No calls for vengeance. Just a quiet world surrounded by steel code. In silence, but beneath Antarctica, beneath Mars, and beneath the Black Sea of Europa, the foundries kept building. And one name kept appearing on schematics buried deep inside. Earth's encrypted defense grid. Cerberus protocol awaiting activation. Earth hadn't spoken in 20 years. It didn't need to, because everything they built was speaking for them. Quiet orbitals, silent stations, vanishing ships. But all of it was just the preparation. Because the moment the wrong hand reached for Earth again, Cerberus woke up. Hook first 5 to 7 minutes. A council deep space research station near HFY picked up a pulse-fast, compressed, encrypted. It was a signal long feared, one not seen in 2 decades. The old Earth encryption key, followed by a single phrase, Cerberus active. That exact moment, across 11 sectors, ships vanished from hyperspace. Council trade lanes went dark. Communications networks shattered. Something had been released. The Sentinel Veil, now permanently stationed near Neptune, immediately detected multiple dark mass objects moving through the system. They had no emissions, no heat. No engine trails, just movement. direct, inevitable, like sharks in black water. Observer Talon stood on the bridge. "This isn't a war protocol," she whispered. "It's not defense. It's punishment." Cerberus protocol was never shown to the galaxy. It wasn't listed in Earth's military archives. Didn't exist in public records. Because it wasn't a fleet. It was a system. Cerberus wasn't made to fight. It was made to erase threats before they became real. Stealthed. Kill drones. Quantum logic bombs. Hunter-A, I-ships that thought like trauma, moved like ghosts, and struck like memory. Their only rule: if they would have harmed us tomorrow, end them today. The flame-born survivors, the ones who fled after the Leviathan incident, had gone into hiding. Cerberus found them, and in 1 week, their hidden moon base was atomized from orbit. Their carrier ships were folded into gravitational sink pockets. Their leaders died when their artificial lungs turned into nanodust inside their chests. No shots. No warnings. It's just silence, followed by absence. The Council scrambled to respond, but Cerberus wasn't attacking. Council fleets, it was shutting down anything within range of Earth that posed even theoretical threat. Merchant guilds, legal AI, labs, spy satellites all turned to scrap. One AI merchant vessel left a dying log as it was sliced. Part didn't even know we'd been seen. Didn't know they were watching. We just died. On Earth, civilians lived quietly. Children played. Cities thrived, but orbit stations showed red-lit signs. Cerberus status. Tracking. They weren't scared. They knew. This time, it's no one would ever hurt them again. Back in Council High Command, a final transmission was sent to Earth. It wasn't angry. It wasn't proud. It was tired. How many more, Earth? How long will you stay silent while shadows die? Earth's reply came hours later. The last message in the Cerberus file. We stayed silent for 20 years. We watched. We waited. Gave the galaxy every chance to show it had changed. But it hadn't. It never does. So now, we clean the future before it bleeds. The Sentinel Veil retreated from soul space. Its mission was over. There was nothing more to learn, because Earth was no longer trying to teach. Earth was simply ensuring no one else would ever teach it another lesson in blood. Cerberus continued. Not with fire, but with fear. Planets fell, silent when its shadows arrived. Pirate factions disbanded before it came. Fleets surrendered to empty space, and in every corner of the galaxy, one quiet phrase was whispered again. Earth is watching. Serail, long retired, recorded one final message after reviewing the Cerberus footage. This wasn't a species that loved war. It was a species that was pushed into it. Once they walked through fire, they decided they would become the fire, and somewhere deep beneath the lunar surface, a final Cerberus vault opened. Inside, something worse than Leviathan, something older. A message written across its sleeping hull. Do not wake me unless Earth bleeds again.